Ngcobo's contract is coming to an end at the end of this current season. And we've seen Kaizer Chiefs drop the ball on a lot of these big players, ending up letting them go for free or sometimes selling them at a fraction of the amount that they would have gotten. An example is Njabulo Blom last season, who was sold for a fraction of what we would have gotten for him and reinvested that money in other players. But then since Kaizer Chiefs didn't do the right thing, they ended up selling him for a much lower fee than they would have initially gotten. So what is happening right now with Ngcobo? Well, we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about what David Radebe or Hadebe has said about Jason Gonzalez. Hello and welcome to Nation Fan TV. I am Pelo, I am your host, and this is where fans meet and talk about Kaizer Chiefs. Amakusi Football Club. Shini's contract is coming to an end, and there are talks that Kaizer Chiefs are looking to renew his contract. Here's the thing though, that's possible, but I could also say why it might be impossible from the player's side and also from the club side. Now, for starters, from the club side, I have a few issues. One is the fact that they've failed massively to integrate Ngcobo into that role. I mean, they even went out and signed Umduduzi Mdantsane to be a starter ahead of Ngcobo coming to the season, which means they were not, and they failed to get the best out of him to a point where they are trying to get other people to play that role. Even Umatlo was playing ahead of him this season. And yes, people will say, but Ngcobo has had his fair share of injuries, which is exactly my point number 2. Because right now you have such a very big player who you need to be available at all times in order for you to depend on them and know that this is your big time player who's always going to give you something. And Ngcobo, unfortunately, has been getting injuries a lot of times. And obviously there are a lot of factors that we can talk about why he's getting injured so much. Maybe the conditioning coach is not doing his job, and that is why a lot of players at Kaizer Chiefs are getting injured a lot of times. So that is also another issue, because a player can be so good, but then because of injuries, they end up looking like they are not good enough. And when it does come back, even like with Derby, there were some people who were saying, Ngcobo has been at Kaizer Chiefs for such a long time, yet there is no improvement. This boy is overrated and all of those things. And this noise always comes up when he returns from injury, because he's coming back from injury. He's still not match fit. He's still not as sharp as he was before he got injured. And then once he regains his form, he gets injured again, and then he comes back. So it's been this circle of you come back, you are bad, and then you get better because quality is permanent, and then you get injured again. So as a business as well, you're asking yourself, would Kaizer Chiefs, when they renew his contract, they'll be asking themselves, is it worth it? Which brings us to the player and the club mutually. Because when they sit down and they discuss the contract, let's just say Ngcobo as a graduate from development is at 50,000. Now, Ngcobo knows that there are players who do not play as well as him, who are signed from other teams, like Umduduzi Mdantsane, who I'm sure is probably on 100K. I'm just speculating here, a month. And then he knows that he's better than Umduduzi Mdantsane, and then he's still being offered 80,000. He's not going to be happy with that, because we remember that's the same problem that we had with Njabulo Blom, because his agent said that there are players that Njabulo Blom was better than, had more national team call-ups than, yet they were getting more money than him. So I just wonder if when it comes down to negotiating the contract, if that will be an issue or not. Because if Ngcobo says, you know what, I'm a very big player, and with Calvin Johnson now slowly starting to integrate him back into the team, will he not then say, no, don't play with me. I want more money. I've been in this team, and now I'm no longer just a boy from development, but now I'm a senior team player. And I wonder, given what we just talked about his injury problems, if the team will say, no, we're not going to give you 100% increase in your salary, because look at you, you're always getting injured. And then also they will bring up that other thing, we invested you are a product of our development. And the state that Kaizer Chiefs is in as well, it's from the player's side. Now you think about it, Ngcobo is one of those players that, as a Kaizer Chiefs fan, unfortunately, I feel like we're holding him back. It's the same thing that I would say for players like Cabo Edson Castillo. I think Castillo can easily go and play in another better league. I know people will get offended by me saying this because you look at him, he's the only player who's performing really, really well, and the rest is just nonsensical performances that we see. Others are trying shame, but others are just bad. Others, as I said, it's just nonsensical. And you're thinking to yourself, if there was a team from Saudi Arabia, because they're signing everyone these days, or even a team in Europe, maybe Belgium or wherever, they're just like, hey, Nkosingiphile Ngcobo, come and play for us. Do you think he will hesitate to join the team given the state of Kaizer Chiefs, how we're playing right now? No, because even right now with the management, you can clearly see that there are things that are bad in the team, but our management are still not taking a full accountability of what is happening at the club. And if our management don't see the problem, it's funneling down to the players. They're like, oh, but they don't see that there's a problem here. And how are we supposed to do better as a team if the problem up there is not solved? Another problem that's not solved is you not liking the video and subscribing to the channel. So please do like the video, subscribe, like, follow, do all those things. And also do let me know before I continue to the other topic. What do you think about Nkosingiphile Ngcobo? Do you think Kaizer Chiefs have a chance of renewing his contract, or do you think he'll actually leave at the end of the season? Because one other thing that I think could be a factor in this is the fact that Kaizer Chiefs have done this thing of signing players for the coach, and then the coach comes in and then it doesn't like those players, so then we have players sitting on the bench, and then by the end of the season 7 of those players get released. Now my question with Nkosingiphile Ngcobo is, whichever coach comes in, is that coach going to say Ngcobo is in my plans? Because sometimes what they usually would do is that, like Klanti, they'll let the player be with the team even though the contract, let's say they're in preseason sometime in June, and then the contract is expiring on the 30th of June. And then when the new coach is there, the player is there just doing the things in front of the coach. Then the coach can say, okay, this player is still part of my plans, give him a new contract, and then he can stay. So I wonder if not having a coach is also going to affect the negotiations for his contract, because once again, it is a factor because we've seen coaches not playing abadlala abathile. Speaking of players who have not been played a lot, we talk about Jason Gonzalez, who David Hadebe thinks he's not been given a fair chance. And people are going to say, hi, Nkomo. Mind you, this guy has had 6 appearances. I don't mean he played 90 minutes, no. The first game that he played was 45 minutes against Mamelodi Sundowns. And then he never finished a game ever. All of the other games would play 40 minutes or 20 minutes towards the end of the game or whatever. And in all of those games, people have not been convinced. Although David Hadebe says something that I agree with when he says that, one, he's not been given a fair chance, but secondly, the fact that he likes his turns and his touches. And I will say that, Yabo Ilinka player, I would say it's even better than Ega Ranga. Ranga is better in the box, but even though Gonzalez will still want goals from him, his link-up play is much better than the one that Uranga does. And I do feel as though Jason Gonzalez, if you play him and you say your role is either to be a link-up player or to be in the box, define it. This thing of hybrid thing sometimes is confusing to players, especially after such a huge change. Moving from South America to South Africa, that is just different kinds of football, different kinds of system, different kinds of weather conditions, and then you're asking the player to just adapt like that in 6 games, or else you want him to leave. Which, though, David Hadebe says that one other thing that he thinks is a problem is the fact that he's a foreigner. Not that foreigners are a problem, but the fact that if you're a foreigner, then people from that club, namely Kaizer Chiefs, then judge you harshly because you're a foreigner, you left an entire continent to come to our continent in this country and not perform well. And that's the thing that happens, because in people's heads it's like, how Besiti, it's an international striker, and a whole international striker coming in and not doing things that are convincing to us. Fraud. That's what people say. So I do get that aspect, and maybe at some point we'll address those things, because some people or players in general, they do need some time to adapt. And one other thing that he said to David Hatebe is the fact that Chiefs did not do enough research about the striker, which is something that I will say about any other player who's currently playing for Kaizer Chiefs. Because most of these players, we take them playing a certain position in a certain way, and then we bring them to Chiefs, and then we want to change their position. And people are going to say, oh, Mpilo, if you're a player, you should be able to do anything and everything. Here's the thing. I am a teacher. I can teach maths, but I would rather not. You get me? I would rather not because it's not my preferred subject. I'm fine teaching physics and reveling the mysteries that all started with the word of God, not the Big Bang. I'm fine. I'm good with teaching physics. I'm good with teaching chemistry. I love it. If you ask me to teach life science, I can do it. I mean, I have a degree in biology, for crying out loud. And I would enjoy it, but it's versatility. Just because I'm versatile, that does not mean I prefer playing anywhere. I can do it, but I would prefer to do the thing, which means to get the best out of me, give me the thing that I prefer the most. And obviously, as a professional, if I'm asked to do something, I will try by all means to do it. But if it's always this recurring thing that I'm constantly being played out of position, that thing is going to affect me at some point. I want to play my position, and my position as Gonzalez is to stay in the box and try and score goals, which is the same thing with Ranga. But with Chiefs, most of our players, we get Abomodi playing as wide wingers, occupying wide spaces and drifting in with the ball, dribbling past people. Now, asking Modi to stay in the half space, receive the ball there and turn. How is he going to do that? He's not good at that. He's good with the ball in front of him, not with the ball in front of him with a defender behind him. No, doesn't play like that. But we keep on just switching players' positions, and you wonder why we're not getting the best out of the players. Do you think Gonzalez's performance is down to the coaching, or you think he's just a bad player? Let me know down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, remember, equals Alpelumoy.